Good evening, good evening, good evening. Welcome to the I'm Just Saying podcast, IJS, the King Day edition. I'm your host, Mr. Kankakee JJ Hollis, in the building. Like to thank you all for tuning in. I'm Just Saying. And today's guest is 2nd Congressional District primary candidate Eric France. Let me tell you a little bit about Mr. France. Okay. Eric France has been dedicated to public service and community empowerment and results-driven leadership throughout his entire career. As president of the France Group, he has spent decades advising public and private sector clients nationwide, helping them make informed decisions, achieve goals, and strengthen organizational performance. France has led transformative initiatives for clients ranging from grassroots organizations to Fortune 500 corporations. His portfolio includes respected institutions such as the National Council of Negro Women, the College Fund, the United Negro College Fund, the Urban League, the University of the Virgin Islands, and companies like Anheuser-Busch, AT&T, IBM, Cox's Communication, Enterprise Rent-A-Car, just to name a few. And now, Mr. France is running for 2nd Congressional District of the state of Illinois. And now I'm going to bring you to our guest today on our end, Eric France.
Hey, JJ, good evening.
Hey, Eric, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well.
That's good, man. That's good. First of all, thank you for being on the show today. It's a privilege for me to have you on.
And hey, it's a privilege to be here.
When I met you, oh yeah. When I met you a few weeks ago, I told you this was going to happen. I wanted to introduce you to all of my listeners throughout the Chicagoland area. And, you know, me and you had a nice conversation. And I wanted my followers and all of the people that listen to my podcast over all of my platforms, I wanted them to get to know you. Okay. So we got to it. So I want you to tell my followers who Eric France is and why you're running for Congress.
Wow, where do I start? You did a great intro with that bio. I mean, that's the basics, but beyond that, I'm a family man. I'm a member of the community. I've lived in all parts of the 2nd District. This district is so crazy big. I don't know if the listeners and viewers know or not, but it starts at 43rd and Ellis in Chicago and goes all through the south suburbs of Chicago, clear all the way down to Kankakee, past Kankakee, all the way to Danville and Rantoul. I've lived in many parts of this district over the years and done many things to help serve others during that time. So that having been said, when I talk about me and what I do, I'm committed to public service. I was born into it. I was the son of 2 public servants. My mother worked in the juvenile court system during her career, and my father worked in all forms of government in the city of Chicago for years. Before people knew who Olivia Pope was, there was Erwin France. He was the fixer. When something went wrong, that's who they called. So I've been a problem solver and around problem solvers my entire life. And I end up to this point today, I'm tired of watching what's going on and being torn apart in this community. The bottom line is I can't sit on the couch and yell at the TV any longer. So I had to get up to do something.
Okay. All right. So, that brings me, just to be honest with you. Hey, man, I understand me being a former elected official. You get to that point to where you're like, man, you know what? I got to get my sideline ass and get on the front line.
That's
And
right.
so,
That's right.
and I get that. One of my mentors within politics was James Bubba Cox. Shout out to former Alderman, God rest his soul, James Bubba Cox here in Kankakee. But he came and found me because I was doing all types of community work and coaching, and he came and got me and said, it's time for you to get your sideline ass on the front line. And so you just brought that. Yeah, hey, when you just brought that up, when you said you got tired of sitting on the couch, that's what he told me, and those things that I want to talk. You talk about sitting on the. Was there a specific moment that you can go back to? You thought, okay, I'm really going to do this. Was there a particular moment when you thought about that?
Well, full disclosure, I've had a group of people who've been pushing me to do this for more than 10 years. And I didn't want to do it then. It wasn't right for me. It wasn't right for the time. It wasn't something I wanted to take on. But as things keep getting better with time, for my personal situation, my kids are grown now. They're all out of the house. Everybody's doing well. I don't have to be selfish and just lean on my family. Now I've got the time to give, and I can say, let's jump in this thing and fix the stuff I know how to fix. I can't sit here watching things fall apart. And I know I can do better. I've done better. I've done a lot of the progress that's been seen within the district over the years on the northern end in the Chicago area and the suburbs. I've done this type of work all over the country and around the world. So it's time for me to bring it home to the second district and do some of these same things.
Okay. And so talking about, people have been trying to get you to run for 10 years and that time was right. I can only, I empathize with you because when I ran Kankakee a few years ago, people asked me why you didn't do it in 2007. I have 6 kids, but my youngest son was getting ready to go to college. And just like you say, your kids are adults now. And you feel, and you were being, and see, you're being a great example. I'm going to give you your kudos. You're being a great example for our constituents because no matter what, you put your family first. And your kids are now adults. And so now being an empty nester, you can get into some other things that normally you wouldn't be able to get into, because when you look at different things with your family, being a congressman and then your son got a basketball game, not always gonna fly. Yeah, it is. It's hard, believe me. I know, man, and
it's really hard
I know
being
how
a girl
that can be. Oh man,
it's really hard when you're a girl dad, because it's just certain stuff you need to be around to make sure that happens right.
That's right. That's right, because you know how men can be, and you know that you are wanting to be protective of your daughter. So and here's the thing. It brings me to my next question for you. And you talk about when you talked about being all over the how far your congressional district goes. I'm in Kankakee. Okay, so and you say you go. What's the furthest south you go?
Rantoul and Danville.
Whew, you down there.
And then we go to west of Pontiac.
West of Pontiac. Okay. We're not too far
Yeah.
from Pontiac here in Kankakee. And so that that brings me to my next question for you. Illinois' second district is incredibly diverse, economically, racially, and geographically. What do you see as its biggest strengths in the second congressional district?
Well, it's people. They're resilient because they've been through a lot and they're ready for better. When I say this district is crazy diverse, it is urban, suburban affluent, suburban poverty stricken, and rural. I would be an absolute fool if I thought that all these people had the same problems. But the one common denominator that we've all been suffering from is economic development. And that ties back to a lot of our problems as we see jobs close and go away and no plans to replace them. As we see no growth in our housing stock or our infrastructure, and we watch the cities fall apart. This is paramount for the people to survive, and not only survive, but to thrive. You know, it's about more than just surviving these days. You got to be in a situation where you can build a future for your kids and your kids' kids.
Exactly. And I understand that wholeheartedly. And when you talk economic development and you talk about job creation, what are some of your ideas that you could see to build that economic development and that housing portion of the within the second district, making affordable housing and things like that? What will be your plan? Come from a plan to a reality for the second congressional district?
Well, let me start with it. We've had some fine leaders in the past. They've been great legislators, but this is not what they do. You need people with the prerequisite experience like myself. In Illinois alone, I've built over 2,000 units of affordable housing and more units that are not affordable. That having been said, most of it was done with government money or public-private partnerships. But to get the government money, you would actually have to know which the programs were in HUD to go get the money from, or from the Department of Commerce, and know what to bring people to and how to prepare them for it, and know how to get the local institutions involved to do it. I've probably built more senior housing than anyone, quite honestly, and we're talking about affordable senior housing. A lot of people don't know how to partner with the right institutions and put together these programs and the financing to make it happen. Sure, every church wants a senior building, but is every church set up to get it? Probably not, but it's not hard to do if you got the right expertise. But you also have that commitment from the person in Washington who's bringing back these dollars and making these things happen and lobbying for them effectively so that you can get more than just nothing. Because right now, we're not building housing at the rate that we need it to sustain our populations. That's just a fact. These monies are there in a lot of programs. The monies that aren't there, we have ways of partnering with the public sector and the private sector to make it happen. We've got housing authorities that are not taking full advantage in Illinois of programs that are being taken advantage of in other states around this country. There are proven examples of people doing this stuff. We're not doing it in Illinois. And the question is why? When it comes to economic development and job growth, the things aren't much different. It's the same way. These programs and these services exist. But guess what? You got to have a plan and an agenda. I don't know what the 5-year plan is for the second congressional district because I've looked and I can't find one.
Oh, whew. And that, you know what? And when we talk about planning, you know, around this time of the year, a lot of our constituents, a lot of the potential voters are saying exactly what you're saying. Everybody talks a good game. But where's the plan? Where's the plan? And that's the thing. And what do you think Washington often misunderstands about the people of the 2nd Congressional District? Because that's what you just said. You know, a lot of people don't understand what's going on in the 2nd Congressional District because there's not a plan that has been presented to the people of the 2nd Congressional District. So what
let me start with
do you
this.
think the Washington offered?
Let me start with this. Who's asked you what you thought and what you need? You gotta listen before you can lead.
I need you to repeat that.
You have to listen before you can lead. I don't need to be deciding what your needs are. You need to be telling me, and I need to be available to hear them so that we can go come up with that plan, agree with it. We may have to adjust the plans here and there because that's why plans exist. But when you got no plan and you're just winging it, we've got more than 30 years of disinvestment in this district. More than 30 years. That's why we are where we are now, because we've been winging it for 30 years. More than 30 years. We've watched cities get shuttered, downtown areas and business districts disappear, housing not get updated or even built at all. We've watched bridges and roads crumble and crack with nothing to survive. We don't have the proper internet access in our communities for our kids to learn or for businesses to even grow. There's got to be a plan that makes this happen. Here in the state of Illinois, we're not perfect at all. But we had Biden infrastructure money a year ago. And here's the sad part. In Illinois, we didn't spend it all. We returned some of it. Were all your problems fixed?
Wait a minute, hold on. I need you to repeat that for the listeners. Did you say that with all of the problems we have in the state of Illinois, let's not talk about public safety or anything like that. Let's just talk about infrastructure. Let's talk about roads and bridges and everything you just mentioned. We have, and I know you do, within the 2nd Congressional District, you see it all the time. Roads are horrible. Bridges look like they're about to fall apart on some overpasses. And you're telling me that we returned some money?
Absolutely. Unplanned, unspent.
Unplanned, unspent. And see, that's what our constituents need to know. That's what our new voters need to know. They need to know about things like this. Because in order to energize a voting base, you have to give them something to latch on to. And what you just said, that we returned millions, and you didn't even give me a number, but I know we returned millions of dollars.
It was the day after Christmas and we took it back.
Hey, that's like, hey, that's an oxymoron. The day after Christmas, you do all your returns. So what did we do as a state? We returned all the money of the 2nd Congressional District that we still needed things done, but we returned the money back to the federal government. And we all know, me and you both, and people that have been in this for a while, we know that when you return money, please don't expect to get it back.
Not at all.
And see, this is one of the things I wanted to touch on, because here in Kankakee County, we had a low voter turnout in our last election, especially amongst African Americans and young voters. We had a turnout of 11 to 13%. That's unacceptable. And a lot of young people feel politics doesn't really affect them. What would you say to change their mind and make those young people want to vote in this election?
Very simply. Have you ever been in a courtroom on a charge? Have you ever had a traffic ticket, paid a water bill, gone to a school? If you're saying you're not doing politics, then you're letting politics do you by not being involved.
Whew. Whew. You just said something. You letting politics do you.
Yeah. If you opt out, you said you had, roughly 17% that voted? It was the other 83%.
No, we had 11.
Excuse me. It
There
was
you
the
go.
other. It was the other 90+% that decided.
There you go. Yeah, that is, man. You know, when I end all my podcasts, I say, remember, if you don't have a seat at the table, you are on the.
That's
And
it.
and it frustrates me a lot, like I know it does you. That's why you got off the couch. Um, it frustrates you when you see a lot of things that are not being done, and you know that when you vote, one of the things that young people need to know: when you vote, you gain access to that candidate. And what do I mean by access? When you email that walk into the office, if I walk in Eric France's office, one of the things you guys are going to do before I even meet you, you're going to get on the voter log and say, did this guy even vote? Or did this young lady even vote? Let me see what's going on and let me try to convince her to vote. And we have to understand that when you vote, that gives you access as a young person. That
It
gives
does
you access
indeed.
to the political arena. And I want you to speak on that about so with these young people, um, issue that made you realize, okay, this stuff actually matters. Because you know that's what the young people are gonna say. Uh, why does politics even matter? So, what was one of the things that made you say, you talk about your father being in on the front lines? What was one of those things that made you say, okay, politics really matter?
So I got in this real young. I mean, real young. Uh, when I talk about it, I used to go to work with my father as a little kid. My father ran the anti-poverty programs in the city of Chicago in the 60s and the 70s. He was the guy responsible for bringing the resources. And when I'd go to work with him, going to places like Robert Taylor Homes, going to places on the West Side, going to places that were very much impoverished and in need of much and had nothing. What I knew was if it had not been for my father caring, they probably still wouldn't have anything because no one was getting involved and no one was holding anybody accountable. They were just complaining to themselves. But part of that action is sometimes the people who got the most are those that scream the loudest. The people who don't scream at all get nothing at
Mm.
all. Because we're gonna stop the bleeding when you see the blood. But we got to do the preventative
Mm.
medicine all along, both as officials and as
Mm-hmm.
constituents. As a constituent, you ought to demand that your officials always be present, not just when it's time to come run for an office. Because there's some people I'm sure you see showing up now who haven't been in the community in about 2 to 4 years,
Hey man,
and you probably won't see them again for another year.
you know,
But that's
and
not on
and, and
them.
when,
That's on us
no,
because we ain't
that
holding them accountable.
that's another thing that I wanted to talk about, which is you're, I mean, people are gonna talk. I ain't seen him, and I haven't seen her, and you know, why are they coming around here now? Well, you're absolutely right. As voters, again, we have access, but we also can hold them accountable for what they're not doing. But again, some people, you have some politicians and you have some elected officials that are going to be proactive, and you have some that are going to be reactive. And you have a lot of people that are going to be reactive. They're going to
Mhm.
sit in their pristine offices until somebody says something is wrong instead of getting on the front line seeing what's wrong. And that's one of the things I wanted you to touch on. How do you view the current state of American democracy, and what role should Congress play in protecting it? Because we know that with everything going on with our president and some of the people that follow him, our American democracy is being challenged. So what role should Congress play in protecting our democracy?
It's
And
more
what?
than being challenged. It's under siege. We've put this country in a
Oh
place
yeah.
where we have one person who controls the House, the Senate, the executive branch, and the courts. We are under siege. Make no mistake about it.
Whew.
They're not asking you your
Absolutely.
opinion now
Absolutely.
because you stayed home and let it happen. And they told you what they were going to do.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we didn't believe them in some cases, so we didn't take it serious, and now here we are. So the question is, what are we going to do to get out of it? That's more than just a congressional move. Part of making Congress effective is sending the right people there to bring it back and to flip that balance. Mm-hmm. So this election is probably going to be one of the most important elections of a lot of your lives, because it will be making 50-year decisions on your lives, whether it's Social Security, whether it's housing benefits, whether it's food benefits, whether it's small business development benefits, whatever it may be. We are switching from having a multi-class system to the haves and the have-nots. And the only thing in between, in the middle, of making that happen or not happen, is you sitting at home, not being active.
Hey, man, and that's one of the things that would-be voters and those that vote all the time need to understand. We talked about this at the beginning of the interview. People like ourselves got up off the couch and got in the front line. A lot more people need to do that in order to make this stuff happen. And you know, one of the things I want to know is, because we talk about the constituents not being involved, not telling you what's going on. How would you stay connected to your constituents once you are elected? How would you stay connected?
That's easy. Be present. I shouldn't be the guy who's always in Washington and never in the district. Someone from my office ought to be there all the time. You ought to know who you can call. I need to be there and be there at key things and hear key discussions and host key discussions. We talk about being on the couch, but this country is really run by what they call kitchen table politics. Get off the couch and at least get to the kitchen table. Have your officials there with you.
There you go.
Tell them your concerns. Hold them accountable. Hold me accountable. Because I'm going to tell you right now, we got a bunch of folks who we've not held accountable for a long, long time. And that's how we got here. We got to start holding people accountable.
Man,
giving them what our needs are.
You just said a lot. You said a lot about, and I like the accountability that you said you have with the people working in your office and just staying connected, because one of the things I found was a lot of people don't even know who their elected officials are. And that's a problem, because I'm going to give you a perfect example. I'm going to use myself. And I haven't been in office since 2021. This is 2026. 3 days ago, I just got a call asking me about something with the Kankakee Valley Park District. I haven't been with the Kankakee Valley Park District since 2021. That's a problem.
Shows nobody is present.
That's right. That's right.
Nobody is present.
And that's what I'm sensing from you when you're talking to people, because look, I seen you. I'm not talking about on TV. I saw you face to face. Okay. I seen you and I spoke with you, and that's some of the things that people are going to say. Hey man, what are some of the most urgent issues you hear about when talking to residents across the district? What are some of those urgent issues that some people are coming up to you in Harvey, Matson, Kankakee, Pembroke, Danville, Pontiac. When some of these people are coming up to you, the city of Chicago, what are they telling you is that hot button topic that needs to be addressed?
That most of our communities have bottomed out. When you walk through communities that used to be thriving with business districts, there's nothing in the neighborhood to even shop for. You're forced to go downtown or somewhere at best. In a lot of cities, their downtown areas have disappeared. So now you're on the highway going to wherever it is you need to go to get what you need to do. I understand that with Kankakee, most people shop in Orland Park.
Well, I can tell you as a person from Kankakee, yes, a lot of our people do go to Orland, and a lot of our people shop in the city of Chicago and other places, Aurora, some of these other places. So yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right.
So we're not doing something right when we're talking about our economic development, because that means if those things don't exist, those jobs don't exist. And that's on the basic level job. But I don't even want you to have a $15 an hour job. I want to talk about minimum wage jobs. I want to talk about living wage jobs that you can retire from, and bringing the things into the community that allow for that. The training set and putting those things back in schools. We moved all vocational training out of high schools, trying to save money.
Whew.
That's crazy.
Man, look, that is, because we have a place here in Kankakee County, and they do good work. Shout out to the to our place here, the Kankakee Area Career Center, and they do a lot of the voc training and all that. But the kid, again, like you said, they took it out of the schools and they farmed it out when those things used to be right there. Like when I was in school, we had an auto body shop right in the school. We had a garage where kids could learn.
And when you graduated, you had the ability to go somewhere and get a living wage because you had the skill.
There you go.
Everyone's not going to go to college. Yep. That's just a fact. Some don't want to. Some just aren't ready. Those who want to go ought to be able to go. But the fact is, we need to have our kids prepared, whichever track they come through, coming out of high school, so that they are in a position to compete. And we stripped our schools of these programs and this funding, and we've got to find a way to bring it back. And a lot of that money we can request from different places. But the bottom line is we can't ignore it. I don't know why we come to the beginning of every school year, and in most counties in this district, we can't balance the budget to get a budget for the schools, though. We're working right now in the state of Illinois with $1 billion budget deficit. The city of Chicago has a budget deficit. I can keep going on and on. This is new. We come
$1 billion budget deficit.
Yeah. We need to do better about
$1 billion budget.
Well, I feel better than I do about our infrastructure crisis, because I'll say it to you like this. In Pembroke, Illinois, they've had a water crisis forever, where you turn on the water and it's coming out brown.
Yes, sir.
And that's been happening since Oprah was on TV.
I know.
Now they need a $75 million.
Well, let me get you real quick. $75 million. And we just returned some money. You said earlier in this interview, we just returned some money, and Pembroke needs $75 million.
That's right.
Oh man. But
we got to do better.
People are coming. Yeah, we got. And listen to. You know what? I love what you just said. A lot of politicians point the finger. Everybody want to point the finger. It's this person's fault. It's that person's fault. It's going to take us all in order for this to work. We're going to have to put our differences aside and put our pride aside and all work together to try to make some of these things work. And that's one of the things we talk about. You talked about and giving people living wage jobs. Health care access and affordability, particularly, and we just got done talking about Pembroke, but there's other underserved communities, particularly for those underserved communities in the 2nd Congressional District. What is your position on that healthcare access and affordability?
So I'm going to be very clear. This is a national issue, but it affects everybody. But I don't know why I can live in France, Germany, Japan, some of the islands, places all around this world, and have universal health care. Canada, I can have universal health care. But in the biggest superpower in the world, we're trying to figure out how we going to pay for health care. But by the same token, we just sent $40 billion to Argentina to help them out. So I don't want to hear about $40 billion going to anybody outside of this country until we fix healthcare, until we fix hunger, until we fix homelessness. And let me be very clear with homeless. A homeless person is not just a person living outside. It's a person who doesn't own a house. Because if you don't own
hold on. I need you to say that one more time for the cheap seats. I need you to say that.
A homeless person is not someone who's living outside. It's not just them. It's anybody who does not own a house or property, because you have nothing to negotiate with, to bargain with, or to pass on to anyone else. You are somebody else's victim as a renter. Because when their taxes go triple without notice, they're not going to worry about it. They're going to pass it on to you renting. You got to get in the game to win the game. But I don't want to see money going out of this country.
You just said a lot.
People will tell you you need another homeless shelter in your community to get homeless off the street. And I'm going to tell you, no, you don't need another shelter anywhere ever. What you need is a house for that person who's homeless with supported services to get them on their feet so that they can be productive in society.
Man, you know.
What you need is the mental health care that was taken away from them. You need the regular health care that was taken away from them. It needs to be there, and it needs to be universal health care for all.
Man,
other countries doing this and doing it well.
Hey, look, you just told a lot of people. I did a few years ago that Canada gets free health. All of their residents get free health care. Okay, I just found that out maybe about 10, 15 years ago that Canada gets free health care. And like you said, we are the world leader. Everybody looks at the United States, and we have people that are making decisions like, am I going to eat or am I going to get medicine? Because they don't have health care. And that drives people to do a lot of things. That's why some of these communities have, because guess what? And I tell people this all the time. We are mammals and we're going to survive. Okay. And we have to, if we don't get those resources, sometimes people will go take them. And that's another thing I want to talk about. How would you address public safety while also ensuring fairness and accountability? You brought this up earlier, in the justice system. How can we do that? How can we address public safety, but also ensuring fairness and accountability in the justice system?
Start with this, and I'm not making any apologies for any criminal, but people do things desperate because they're desperate. You have to provide better opportunities, and that's part of the reason why we need jobs with living wages, so that that mother who doesn't have milk for that baby doesn't feel like she needs to go out shoplifting. You have to provide better opportunities for people, and that will cut into a lot of the petty crime. And the other crime that you see, and a lot of the crime that's more violent, is usually a mental health issue at the end of the day. That's what we find out with all these situations. But we've taken all the mental health care out of the communities and defunded it for years. We have
Man.
to restore that so that people have other options, that they're getting the help they need to fight their problems, and then public safety becomes public safety again and not public policing.
Whew, man, a lot of people don't understand that. A lot of these affluent communities, um, and they're doing a great job with the economic development. I was at the barbershop today, and we talked about economic development. It's like Orland, Naper, and some of these places where, guess what? Crime is low. Why? It's because resources and opportunities are within these communities. And once you're elected, what are some of those resources that are not being given right now? What are some of these resources that you will bring to some of these underserved communities that will help not just alleviate crime, but help people be homeowners and help people to understand credit and things like that? What will be some of the things that some of those resources that you will make readily available to these communities?
That's a good question. So let's remember this. I'm running for Congress, and my job as a congressman is to be the coordinator of local resources. Meaning we have local officials who are responsible for a lot of those things on that level. But my job is to work with them. As congressman, I am the bringer back of money so that they can actually afford to do them. I have to lobby in Washington with the existing departments and with legislation to bring these things back so that they're a reality. In the 1970s, as I said, my father, in the 60s and 70s, my father ran the anti-poverty programs in Chicago. One of the first things he did was build community centers that were known as urban progress centers. With an urban progress center, it was exactly that. It was a skills hub for jobs, for training, for assistance with medical issues. It brought the things that were missing directly in the communities, and it kind of became a resource hub. We need to look at a model like that again. We had a blueprint before that was fully funded. And in the 80s and the 90s, we started going in a different direction and started defunding them. That in itself is scary. Because in a lot of these communities, you'll still see these buildings sitting in place with the plaques on the walls where they were dedicated for these things. And now they're daytime warming centers or cooling centers, depending on what time of the year it is. They're human services outposts, which redirect you somewhere else, but they don't really do anything for you. In other cases, they've been dismantled all. We got to bring back something of that nature to these communities to make them more effective, because there is nowhere to go. Everybody who has a problem can't go to City Hall and bang on the alderman or the mayor's door, especially if we've not worked together to come up with that plan to provide these services and distribute them accordingly.
And that's something that a lot of the elected officials and community leaders, the aldermen, the commissioner, the county board members, a lot of these people, and it frustrates me. That's one of the reasons I got out of politics, was because I didn't see people wanting to work together to get things done. Everybody was too busy arguing. And while you're arguing, communities around us are growing. We just talked about Orland Park. We talk about Naperville. My son went to school. My youngest son went to school in Lisle, Illinois, at Benedictine. Every time I went up there, something new up there in the Naperville, Lisle area. Something. I went up, and 3 months later, there was an Amazon Fresh store freshly built. I was like, God dog, I was just up here 3 months ago. Where did that come from? And my son said, hey, they were building it, and they built it quick because Amazon said they needed to put their grocery store in Naperville. Okay. And we have to, within our communities, like you said, your job is to bring the monies back. But within these local municipalities, some of these aldermen, some of these commissioners, a lot of these people need to start working together in order to make a lot of this stuff happen, because it's not going to work. I'm gonna be honest with you. It's not going to work unless everybody comes together. Let me tell you, when I was in Memphis as a college student, as you can see, I have it on. When I was in Memphis, I worked on some of the campaigns with Harold Ford Sr., Harold Ford Jr., Joe Towns, who's still a local. He's a congressman, a state congressman, a state legislator there from Memphis. And I worked with a lot of these people, Willie Harrington. And one of the things they told me, Harold Ford Sr. taught me a valuable lesson. He said that when you're an elected official, you don't go home with the people that you work around. Your job as an elected official is to work with people to try to get something done for your surrounding communities. And after that, we don't have to get along. He said, I go home to my wife, everybody go home to their significant others, they go home to their families. But while we're together, our job is to make our communities better. And we need to do that. And that would be my next question for you. How would you bridge that gap between Washington and the state and the local municipalities? How would you, as our elected official from the 2nd Congressional District, all of those cities, you talk about Danville, you talked about Pontiac, you talked about Pembroke, Kankakee, Matson, Harvey, all these places, Chicago South, the south side of Chicago, all the way to Rantoul. How would you get those municipalities and those state representatives and everybody to work with you to try to bring some of that federal money into the 2nd Congressional District?
Well, let me say this. You start at the level with these mayors and village presidents. That's the level that you start at, and the township supervisors, because they have the minute pieces that overlap into the state representatives and the state senators and the U.S. congressmen and the U.S. senators. You have to start at that level. You ought to have a relationship with every mayor in your district and talk to them at least once a month. Now, I will say in our district, I got about 50 mayors. I've visited with a lot of them already and talked with them. A lot of them have told me no one's ever done that to them and asked them what they wanted. A lot of them have been told they don't even matter because there's not enough votes there. We got to start by changing our attitudes. And a lot of people will tell you right now that Kankakee really doesn't matter. That's not the issue, because there's just not enough there to invest. Well, I will tell you this. I know better. I've seen better. And I'm telling you better.
Yeah, exactly. I love that bumper sticker.
This is the attitude you gotta have, because every portion of the district matters. Now, on certain things, are we going to sync up with other areas? Absolutely. On other things, it's a boots on the ground situation, because it may be unique to Kankakee or Kankakee County, and that's just where it's got to stay. And how we have to pull those leaders together to come up with a plan to bring back funding, to bring back grants, to meet these needs. But you got to have a plan and a wish list, and you got to be strategic about it. Businesses don't operate this way by not doing it. If we were a business, we'd be bankrupt now, and we are, because we can't balance our budgets. We go bankrupt once a year.
Well, evidently,
we don't have to.
We must be pretty rich within this 2nd Congressional District if we return.
Well, we're returning money and raising.
So that means everything is. Whew, whew. I keep going back to that because I just cannot believe. Well, I'm not saying you lying because I know you telling the truth. I just find it odd that within a district where people talk about, I want this, we need that. Man, I'm tired of running over these pots. I'm scared to go into that overpass, man. I don't know if it's gonna crumble. Those types, the audacity to send money back. And that's just, man, I just found that crazy. And we wonder why some of the young people don't want to vote. And that's one of the things. What are some of the issues here's the thing. This one thing I learned about you. You're not afraid to talk to anyone. And I know you've talked to a lot of young. And young people are going to be that voter base that could get someone like yourself elected. So my thing is, what issues do you hear about from most of the younger voters in the district? What do they want? What do they want to see some of the young people, those voters from the ages of 18 to 35? What do they want? What are they looking for when you talk to them?
Here are a few of the things. Number one, they want to see their parents stop struggling. They're tired of their parents having to be absent, working 2 and 3 jobs just to stay above water. Not to get ahead, but to stay above water. They want more opportunities for their parents. Number two, they're concerned for those who do want to go to higher education, that there's a way and a path for them to do so. And we owe that to them. First off, we got to have them prepared to go. And we're not properly preparing them on that level where they can get these big scores and go to these big schools and get those big scholarships. We have to better prepare them. That is something that they're asking for. Number three, they say there's nothing to do around here. So as we build these cities, we need to think of the work, live, play concepts so that there are things to do that are safe and are close to home and that we can feel good about and that people will be attracted to. People want to feel proud of where they live. And a lot of times right now, people don't.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest thing I hear,
and that's one of the.
I'm sorry. The biggest thing that I hear most kids say is, "Well, when I get myself together, I'm gonna buy my mama a house."
Yep, absolutely.
Now, that's really strange if we depended on your mama getting a house based on you being successful, and we not doing anything to get successful. First off, we need to not have your mama waiting on that house. We need to make that happen now and get those programs in place and active because, as I said, they're doing this in cities around the country. We have people buying homes with Section 8 vouchers because people know how to access the money and do it.
I want you to repeat that because we within our communities within the 2nd Congressional District, there are a lot of people that are going to get out and vote after hearing this podcast. They're going to go, if they're not already registered, I guarantee you they're going to go register from listening to a candidate like yourself. So what do you, when you talk about home ownership and getting those resources in place, how will you actively, you talked about boots on the ground a couple of minutes ago. How will you actively make that happen? So these kids, because I know from being a coach in this community, a community leader in my city, I know that one of the main things I talk about is some of these kids are truant and things like that because their parents have to work and shift. Mm-hmm. And so parent has to work p.m. to 7 a.m. And when they get home, they so tired that the kid is raising themselves, because we're not letting them get living wage jobs or things that you about. You would, within our school districts, or you would try to get more within these districts to help our kids understand that going to college is a reality. Because a lot of these kids don't know that. A lot of these kids don't realize that. Look, I coached at a Catholic school here in Kankakee, Illinois. Shout out to Bishop McNamara Catholic High School. They do a great job over there. But then I went over, a lot of those kids, all they talked about was, Coach JJ, I want to go to college. Coach JJ, I'm going to University of Kentucky. Coach JJ, I'm going here. Coach JJ, I'm going there. When I got over to the public school, I asked the kid about, so what are you going to do in 2 years when you get out of high school? I don't know. A lot of them were saying, I don't know. And guess what? I felt like you. I'm like you. I'm not going to put it on nobody else. I'm not going to put it and say this is their fault. No, we need, because a lot of these parents didn't go where me and you went. They didn't go to college. So it's up to people like us and elected officials and people in the community to let these kids know in these rural and urban areas that it is possible for you to go to college. It is possible for you to get that college education. And so what are some of those things that you will bring to the schools to make that happen?
Well, start with this. We got to not only help the kids, but help the parents at the same time, too. Literacy works both ways, and we're not just always talking about reading and writing. But we have no financial literacy in the schools. We have no real college success program in the high schools to prepare for someone to make the decision if it's right for them. We have no real career path placement. We have counselors that are getting people into college and then leaving them there shipwrecked with no plan to be successful in college. The work starts by attacking it in high school and before then. We need to start teaching literacy financially in the 5th grade, so that when a kid gets some money, they understand the value to it and know what to do with it, know how to save it, know how to invest it, know how to plan to be a homeowner. We need to bring back resources from HUD, Department of Housing and Urban Development, so that they understand how to purchase a home. We need to go to the Commerce Department and hold them responsible for the Community Reinvestment Act, for making these banks that do business in our communities reinvest in these communities and grant loans to these kids and these parents as they need them. The worst part of it all is we have a lot of our kids who are in the foster care system to no fault of their own. And what do they get on their 18th birthdays? They get a birthday gift of becoming homeless and thrown out of the system with no guidance and no preparation. That's just a fact. We need them prepared by the time they get to that point, and we need supportive transitional housing for them so that they can be productive. They have that chance to go to college. We need these type of planning services in place. We got a champion to change our society and make things better. All politics is local,
Exactly,
but it starts at home.
Exactly.
You have to take care of it first. Don't worry about what else happens in these streets. We got to give them something to walk out the front door with.
You just said something. You know, my grandmother always said, charity begins at home. Both of my grandmothers said, charity begins at home, and you can't love nobody else till you first love yourself. So that's within your home. You got to start within your own private home. Then you start with your neighborhood. Then you start with the community. And if everybody would do that, man, it would be a great place.
Let me tell you what my wish is, JJ, as we come out of this holiday season. My wish is by the holiday season in 2026 that we don't have people lined up for $5 turkeys and $5 hams because they got the ability to get their own. I should not see people lining up depending on food pantry. I should not see people lining up just to have a holiday dinner to get a $5 ham or a $5 turkey. And we got to change that mentality that we are bought that easily.
That's right. That's right. And let me tell you, my uncle, God rest his soul, Otis Ward, he was just honored at the Kankakee Holiday Tournament a few weeks ago. But when I was 12 years old, I didn't know what he was doing. I'm a young man with asthma and everything else. He took me to one of these places that you're talking about. The line was down the street to get something for Thanksgiving. He said, go stand in that line for your auntie so she can get that. Man, it was about 25 degrees outside. And I was in that line for 2 hours. And I got back in the car with that stuff, man. I was about froze. And when I got back in the car, my uncle pulled out about $2,000 out of his pocket. He said, you know, I could have went to the store and bought that. He said, but I want to teach you a lesson. Some of them people out there that's in those lines, they got to be out there. And if you don't prepare yourself and do what your mama and daddy and me and your other uncles and aunties telling you to do to be great in school and doing what you're supposed to do, you're going to have to stand in that line. And man, I ain't had to stand in one of them lines.
And that's exactly what
I think what you said. Yep. You gotta prepare people, and you have to let them know that there are sources out here for them, so they won't have to do those things you're talking about, waiting on a $5 ham or waiting on that $15 turkey and all that, because there are resources, there are things you can do to make those things happen within your communities. So, hey, I applaud the way you're on what you're running on. And before we end this, I really am. One of the things I want you to be able to do is I want you to be able to tell people your platform. Tell people why you're running, things you're going to do for the 2nd Congressional District when you're elected. I want them to be able to, when they watch this and when they leave here, I want them to be able to say, Eric France stands for X, Y, and Z. Tell me what your platform is and tell my listeners what you're going to do once elected.
Eric France stands for Equality and Economics. As you mentioned, there are things that are beautiful in Danville, beautiful in Naperville, but ugly in Danville and ugly in Kankakee. There are things that are beautiful on the north side of Chicago, but ugly on the south side of Chicago. Eric France stands for equalizing these things because we know it can be. We've seen it in other places. Now it's about enacting it and holding people responsible. And not just the elected officials, but the people in the community for doing their part too. What Eric France wants to do, as I'll talk in the third person, is let people understand it can be better, and it was better, because it was not always this way. I lived in the neighborhood at a time when you could walk down a business district and get anything you wanted. To go from that to nothing and try to blame it to online shopping is a lie. It's disinvestment.
Mm-hmm.
It's disinvestment. It is very targeted. There's no reason why one side of the city ought to be doing well and the other side is doing nothing or struggling at best. I want for everyone who wants to reach the American dream and be a homeowner to be able to achieve it. Understand it as recognizable and achievable. I want people to stop wanting and start doing. My job is to help you to help you live a better life. I want you to start holding officials accountable, not just your congressman, but all of them. I pledge to be accountable, to be accessible, to not only be passionate, but to be present. That is what I want for you, because for far too long, that is not what we've had. And that's been on multiple levels. We've had some great legislators. They passed some good laws on some stuff. But if we're not taking care of home first, what are we doing? You don't have to stop worrying about everything going on in Washington and not worry about what's going on in downtown, wherever USA. Because if it ain't helping the people at home, then what are we doing? My whole campaign is about helping people. I'm going to vote the right way on things that we got to vote, and that's part of the job too. Don't be fooled. I'm your voice in Washington for those too. But if I'm your voice in Washington for that, and we're taking care of all of that, but we're not taking care of home, then I better start doing something else. So you better start holding me accountable.
Exactly. Exactly.
We got accountable. They come up with these wonderful agendas that have nothing to do with what the people want.
Hey man, I applaud you for that. And a couple of more questions I have for you. One, why should the voters of the second Congressional District, because isn't it, if I'm not mistaken, there's 10 of the Democratic nominations,
there are 10
correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll say it like this.
Why should the voters choose you over your other 9 opponents?
So let me break it all down, and I won't call any names. 6 of my opponents were either elected officials or work for elected officials. If they had all the answers in their last job, there'd be no room for me to be in this race, now would there? I don't believe in anybody leveling up from their last job to the next job, and they haven't delivered any of this stuff where they are. Why the people need to vote for me is because this is what I do. It's what I've done. If you want to see a legacy of what I built in housing, I can take you and show you. And I'm not talking about putting my name on something. I'm talking about putting the deals together and bringing the money back to get it done and working with the people that need to make it happen. I can talk about a legacy of raising money for education. I can talk about a legacy of job creation and economic development. These are not what my opponents do or have done, because if they had done them or do them, we wouldn't be here now.
Whew. Whew. You just said something. Hey, and look, I know that after this interview, a lot of people are going to want to know how to get with you and things like that. How can people in the district get involved or learn more about you?
We're on all platforms of social media, including Blue Sky. You can go to www.France4Congress.com. France for Congress, spell it out, not the number. You can go there, volunteer. You can donate. Did I mention this is expensive? and we do need help. We'll take all donations.
Hey, look,
every little bit counts.
I know it's expensive.
Believe it.
Yeah.
Whether it's $5 or 5 cents, we need it. This is not a cheap proposition.
Exactly.
I don't have the luxury of being in office and having a war chest or having an existing donor base. There's a certain level of commitment and sacrifice that my family's made to do this. So we need your help to get over the finish line. We need you to help us knock on doors, invite us to your church, invite us to your school. Wherever people are is where we are. That's where we want to be, and that's how we want to see you. I spent a lot of the summer in the farmers market in Kankakee on Saturday mornings, sitting just talking to people. and
yeah.
understand what the issues are. Because I know my community too. It is mine too. And by the way, there's some people out here taking PAC money. I don't have no PAC money. I need people money.
Okay. There you go.
Community.
There you go. That's right. Invest in the community. You coming to the farmers markets and coming straight to people. And I know that firsthand about you. And again, franceforcongress.com, right? franceforcongress.com.
Number two on the ballot. Don't
When does early voting start?
Second one.
When does early voting start? When does early voting start?
Early voting starts February 17th. There's a 30-day window.
February 17th. And the primary election is March 17th, Tuesday, March 17th. And that's St. Patrick's Day. So
let's go green in a different way.
So there you go. Let's go in and let's win with Eric France for Congress. Eric, I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you for
I appreciate having you as a guest. Hey man, it's been a lot of fun and it's been very informative. And I appreciate you coming on here, letting us know what your forum is. And I think a lot more people will know about Eric France after this. And don't forget, for everybody listening, this will be readily available on Facebook, YouTube, on my YouTube channel, Spotify. The audio will be available on Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Amazon Music immediately following this podcast. So those of you who may have missed a portion of it, hey, that's right. Oh, believe me, before the election on March 17th, I'm going to have you on again because you're a great guest, and I know my listeners enjoyed you. So I just appreciate coming and thank you for part of the show, and you will be hearing from me soon. Thank you, Eric. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. That was Eric France, our candidate for 2nd Congressional District to be a U.S. Congressman here within the 2nd Congressional District. I hope you enjoyed the show. Again, this podcast will be readily available immediately following on Facebook and YouTube. And you can also find it on iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and Spotify if you would like to listen to the audio version. Again, I appreciate you all for this is JJ Hollis and Mr. Kankakee, as you see in the corner. I had hair. So again, I'd like to thank all for watching this episode, our King Day episode of I'm Just Saying. And as Dr. King says, live out your dream. Don't make it a nightmare. I want you to live out your dream. Eric France just said it. Find those resources in your community and live out your dream. Nothing that you want to do is not too far-fetched. You can make it happen. Just go to those people. Let them know what you want to do. And guess what? There are a lot of good people in our communities that will help you make it a reality. Again, thank you all for tuning in to IJS. I'm Just Saying, our King Day episode. And you know how I end all my podcasts. Every day you get better or worse. You never stay the same. And remember, if you don't have a seat at the table, you are on the menu. May God bless you. May God keep you. And thank you for tuning in. Just Saying.
Yeah. Put me in, coach. Yeah. Put me in, coach. Yeah. I got that scatty on the float. Put me in, coach. Night edition, yeah, them dope. Put me in, coach. Mopar, yeah, this a toast. Put me in, coach. Put me in. Yeah. Put me in.